6:30. We're going to call this regular meeting of the Chavano Park City Council to order. Lee Powers will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pete Miller will lead us in the invocation. If you all would all please stand.
Heavenly Father, we gather this day as the stewards of our community, entrusted with the responsibilities to lead with integrity, compassion, and foresight. Grant us the clarity of mind and the calmness of spirit as we deliberate. Help us to listen deeply to one another, to be the voices for those we serve. May our decisions reflect not only what is practical, but what is just, not only what is efficient, but what is kind. Remind us that leadership is not about authority, but about service. That progress is measured not only in project completion, but in trust earned and lives uplifted. Where there is disagreement, let us sow respect. Where there is uncertainty, grant wisdom. Where there is opportunity, inspire courage. May the work we do tonight honor the past, serve the present, and build a future worthy of those that call this place home. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Pete. Brings us to item number 3 on the agenda, citizens to be heard. There are no citizens to be heard. Item number 4, city council comments. Lee.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and I will make special note of the blessed rain we got the other night. The light show and the noise scared my dog to death, but we needed the rain. So thank you, Lord.
Pete.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank those that participated in our trunk or treat yesterday. We had a fantastic time. It was a really great time. There was over 400 snow cones that were handed out by the police department. The Public Works did an outstanding job of getting things set up and served the hot dogs. And Kristen did a great job of the overall coordination, and thanks to many of our local businesses who helped supported the event. So I thought it was a fantastic event. The other thing I'd like to do is everybody keep in your prayers Jamaica, because they're getting ready to get hit by a big storm. So we need to be thinking about them in our prayers.
Thank you, Pete. Conrad.
Good to see everyone.
Maggie.
Glad to see everybody here and say what a good time we had yesterday, and again to thank our Public Works, our police department, and our fire department for just doing an outstanding job of, they work all hard all week, and then they cook for us on trunk or treat. It was a really great neighborhood, and plus, plus folks came from all around and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a little warm. Next year we'll have snow. Bring a tent, something. It'll be great. And it was just a wonderful community event, and the little kids and the big kids all equally loved it. And thank you again to our employees who had put forth a lot of effort for their 3 areas, and we got to eat some good food and some nice ice cones and let's see, and popcorn. Who ever heard of that? That was really good. And aside from this, I want us to all think in our hearts and talk to God about one of our former employees, who's Sam Richards, who was a fire department and went on to other areas, is quite ill. And we want to think of him and his family at this time and hope everything works out well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Buddy.
Good evening, everyone. Again, just to reiterate, October was a pretty busy month for the City of Chavano Park. We had the National Night Out, we had a town hall, we had the trunk or treat, and here we are tonight. So thanks to everybody who participated in all the events. It was good to see everybody. You know, whether you're smiling or not, it's always welcome, and we appreciate that. And thanks to everybody's hard work yesterday.
I do want to commend the Public Works Department. The tailgate was exceptional. I do want to mention to you and thank you for that. Jerry Jones did not blame you for the defeat yesterday. I just, so it wasn't your fault. But maybe we want to think about tailgates for the Cowboys in the future. Okay, brings us to item number 5, presentation, commendations, and announcement. Proclamations, National Night Out, host proclamations. And I got a lot of them here. For National Night Out, we had Katie Fisher, Ken and Donna Flores, Conrad and Anise Kirkendall, Kim Lane, Clyde and Nicole Lehman, Eduardo Pena, I guess with Conrad, Mike and Lisa Ryan, Shirley Shimuris, Lori and Scott Simon, and Jeff and Marcia Schrader. I believe the only 2 people that we have here this evening for the proclamations are Conrad and Kim. Oh, and you are? Schraders.
Oh, good.
Are you Shirley? Oh, Marcia, Jeff and Marcia Schrader.
You
Okay.
have ID?
Let me, Okay. Kim, come on down. No, we're gonna get you separate. We're gonna get y'all, Schraders, we're gonna get y'all separate. We're gonna get y'all separate. Come on down, Kim. I'm gonna get you first. Kim is one of those people that has the spiritual gift of hospitality. And I tell you that every time we wind up at Kim's house, it is just a blessing to everybody in the community. Kim, thank you very much on behalf of the city of Shenandoah. Okay, Jeff, Marcia, come on down, come on down. I would have made it to your house, but unfortunately, please, I did, Where do you want in the middle here? Exactly. I had oral surgery scheduled, and I did not get to make it out for National Night Out this year. But I tell you, y'all make all the difference in the world. And on behalf of the city of Shenandoah Park, thank you for making our community special. Okay, Mark, you're gonna get to do double duty today, because you get to accept this proclamation on behalf of HEB.
Okay.
Come on down.
I'll be honored to. Mayor?
Oh, we do? Oh, come on down.
Well, hey, I'll do it with you. Yeah. Let's do it together.
That's great. How's it going, guys? Come on over here. Yes, good to be with you. He flies the plane for the people that are important. Yes. But, on behalf of the city of Shenandoah Park, we could not do this without you guys. HEB makes a marvelous difference in our community. It has been a part of our community since the founding of Shenandoah Park. Shenandoah Park's been here for 70 years. So thank you very much. Thank you. Conrad, come on down. Unfortunately, we did not get the better half of this family. Anise is not here. She's absolutely lovely, and we got Conrad instead. Conrad, thank you so very much. Conrad makes the best brisket in South Texas. And I know that he served at the National Night Out to his neighbors. Conrad, thank you very much for all that you do. keep up the good work. And I do want to say that you won the National Night Out competition with the fire department this year. So congratulations. I see that we have some ladies in pink. Breast Cancer Awareness Week, or month. Breast Cancer Awareness, come on down. Breast Cancer Awareness. 1 in 8 ladies are going to have breast cancer. Daily, there are going to be thousands of ladies that are diagnosed with breast cancer. 240,000 a year, was that what the number was? Yeah, absolutely devastating. And what y'all do to bring this to our knowledge, to share it with the community, to create the awareness. I remember when I started first representing radiologists and they were providing mammograms, it's like, well, what are y'all doing? And, you know, I was young, about 15 years ago, and y'all have just gone in and saturated the community to let people know. We appreciate everything that you do. Keep up the fine work that y'all are doing in our community and throughout the greater community. Thank you very much. Now we have to go to support group. Y'all excuse us. Thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 5.5. Recognition of some of our departing commissioners from our different committees. Song, you are the first one up, and if you come forward and accept, on behalf of the city of Chavano Park, a tomb for you. Song, thank you for bringing the knowledge of a really great engineer to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Well, Chris isn't on the committee. Chris isn't on the committee. But thank you for being a volunteer in that capacity. You have made a gigantic difference in how we understand these issues and how Planning and Zoning understands them well. Thank you so very much. It was our honor to have you on the committee. Mark, you just come on down again. Mark, you have been a really great neighbor to me. I always enjoy getting to drive by your house and see what you and your lovely bride Lynn have been doing there. Mark, unfortunately, has made the decision, or his parents made that decision for him in 1962 to be born in Ohio. And he is going back home. And I can't blame him for wanting to go back home because Thomas Wolfe was wrong. You can go back home. The thing about you can't ever go home is wrong. And I know that the family and relatives that you have up there are just excited to have you coming back home. Thank you for all that you've done with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Randy Smith, where's Taylor? He's been with one in the family that has made so much difference on the tree committee. She's at college. She's at college. Well, Randy, thank you for all that you've done. Since we started the tree committee, Randy has been a perennial portion of that committee, which provided us amazing leadership in that position. We thank you for all the knowledge that you have shared with us about Oakville and how we as a city have been so proactive in addressing that problem. In the time that you have been the chairman of the tree committee, we have distributed thousands of trees in Chavano Park. It's hard to imagine that, a city that's got as many trees as we have distributed thousands of trees for our citizens for them to plant and to provide a diverse flora and fauna within the community. Thank you so very much, Randy. You have a great And last but not least, Matt Trippy for the Water Committee. Matt, how many years have you been with the Water Committee?
Man, I didn't look that up. Maybe 10, something like that.
It may have been 10 or 12 by now, but, yeah, come on down, come on down. Matt, the tree committee, the water committee is one of those things that makes Chavano Park unique. We have our own water system, it functions a whole lot like a co-op. And as such, our citizen involvement is absolutely essential. We appreciate everything that you have done for that community. Thank you so very much. And please give the very best to your lovely bride. And thank y'all for coming, and anytime y'all want to get up and leave, you're absolutely welcome to leave. But, we're not going to hold your feet to the fire and say, golly, I hope they stay
Well,
for the whole.
they're welcome to stay also.
You are welcome to stay as well, yes, exactly. Item number 6, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired by any alderman on any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do we have a motion to accept and/or approve items 6.1 through 6.4?
So moved.
We have a motion from Maggie. We
Second.
have a second from Conrad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. City manager report. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will only be considered at the request of one or more aldermen. Coincident with each listed item, discussion will generally occur at the end of the regular agenda. Does anybody wish to pull any of items 7.1 through 7.6? There being no request, brings us to item number 8. Item 8.1, discussion action request for the City of Chavano Park Planning and Zoning Commission to conduct a comprehensive review of the Cliffside Drive to Salado Creek Parkway Pike and Bike Trail entry point. The commission will prepare a study and report for the city council's consideration detailing anticipated benefits and potential adverse impacts of the project. Areas of focus should include the potential effects on area wildlife, residential impact, and alignment with neighborhood character. As part of the process, the commission is expected to actively engage with Chavano Park residents to ensure community perspectives are reflected in the final report. Pete?
All right, Curtis, could you take us to the next slide? All right, so over the past 8 months, there has been a lot of conversation about the Cliffside Hike and Bike Trail. So we started back in February. We went through city council meetings. We had actually a town hall meeting, and then we actually pulled and withdrew the grant. So, but as we've gone through this, one of the things that that Bill covered in the town hall was he talked about the path forward. And we talked about the need to fully understand the benefits and the potential impact in order to make well-informed decisions. So let's go to the next slide. So as you kind of look at the issue, to frame it at a high level, I think Spinoza said, no matter how thin you slice it, there's always two sides. And the two sides that we're hearing is one has to do with the safety of the path. And the informal pathway lacks proper grading and signage, making it difficult to locate, navigate, and potentially hazardous, especially for children and seniors and individuals with bike or mobility challenges. As you look at the other side of the safety for the residents that around that community, their concerns are the potential safety risks posed by the increased pedestrians and cyclist activity and the likelihood of additional traffic congestion in the area, and the impact such developing that might impact their quiet and residential character of their neighborhood. So as you look at these two kind of controversial issues, the question is how do we move forward on that? So let's go to the next slide. So we actually did withdraw, in September we actually withdrew the AAMPO grant application. And what we are asking the planning zoning to take a look at It will not be the trailhead parking lot, will not be the Windmill Road bike path or the Cliffside Road path, but specifically the Cliffside to Salido Creek entry access point. So we're narrowing that scope to just that one single point. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So as we do look at that point, what we're proposing, what we're asking from to take forward to the planning and zoning are two kind of key points. The first one is to explore ways to enhance the Cliffside access point to promote safer, more inclusive, and secure connectivity to the San Antonio trail system. The other thing that we were asking them to do is to ensure that any improvements minimize safety risk, traffic congestion, or potential disruption to the quiet residential character of the neighborhood. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this does come with challenges, and no doubt, as we've gone through the last 18 months, these challenges have actually become very clear. So the first one is the feasibility. When you look at the funding, how does this compete with other priorities? When you look at the engagement, integrating the diverse community perspective. So we have a lot of different opinions on what needs to be done here. And the third is actually the safety and security. So ensuring that the safety and security and the charm of the community is not disrupted. And then the last kind of key challenge is access. So how do you make this accessible to all the Chavano, or make this accessible to Chavano Park residents? And what's the best method to go through that? Okay, let's go to the next one. So, Mayor, what I'd like to do is propose a motion. And the motion requests that the Chavano Park Planning and Zoning Commission to conduct a comprehensive review of the Cliffside Drive to Salado Creek Parkway hike and bike trail and entry point. The commission shall prepare a study and report to City Council considerations detailing anticipated benefits and the potential adverse impacts of the project. Areas of focus should include the potential effect on area wildlife, residential impact, and the alignment of the neighborhood character. As part of this process, the commission is expected to actively engage the Chavano Park residents to ensure community perspectives are reflected in the final report. And I want to add kind of two other points that I think are critical to this as well. And the one point has to do with there's some engineering work that has to be done in order to make this possible for the planning and zoning. So that we do allow some flexibility to the planning and zoning to be able to pull in that engineering support as they need it. The other key point is, I think at the town hall, we talked about the timing of this, and we talked about it that potentially this could be as soon as the early part of January. But I would like to extend that through April of next year. And the reason for that is this recommendation would tie in with our budget process, and we really don't need that recommendation until that time. And I'd like to ensure that the P&Z has plenty of time in order to be able to actively engage residents and to really think through the issue.
Thank you, Pete. On the last part, they're going to finish when they're going to finish. Are you saying you want the report in April, or you're saying you want the report by April to be delivered at the time that they deem appropriate?
What I'd ask is that we'd set a deadline for April. If that is not
Okay.
feasible, that they would come back to us and they ask for an
Okay.
extension of time.
Okay, so it's when
Is-
they want to turn it in, you'd like for it to be April, but it could be later.
If they need extension, they can come
Okay.
forward and ask for extension.
Okay, very good, thank you very much. Do we have a second? We have a second from Conrad. We're now open for discussion. Lee?
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. I don't see, to my liking, anything about cost of the project of getting to yay or nay on this stuff. If there is going to be, we're already going to involve city employees in some part of this. I'm sure Bill Hill will be involved in this. That'll take some of his time. But I also want to make sure that we understand that there's going to be some small or modest costs involved in this. And secondly, and most importantly, are we voting on the one that you read aloud or the one that Alderman Miller read aloud? Because they were two different.
I believe that he was reading the
Yes.
Chavano Park City Council request that was printed on, that appears on your screen right now.
Because the one that you read aloud was different.
Well, that was the agenda item that was proposed.
Right.
And he has made a motion that could be, that is within the scope of what his motion was.
Okay,
But
as an attorney, you understand that when you got to the third line on what you read, the commission will prepare a study, and the wording is shall, and
Yeah.
there's a monumental amount of difference between will and shall when we get into contested verbiage.
Yeah, the commission shall prepare is what Pete has suggested and has been seconded. Do you have an amendment that you would propose to make it will, or is shall?
As you've just pointed out, for the record, he read it, and he did include the correct word shall, and
Okay.
I'm content that that will satisfy.
Okay, very good. Buddy?
Yeah, I have some reservations on this. This has been part of the town plan for quite some time. Planning and zoning has conducted the review, came out with recommendations. Ever since I can remember, down in 2016, 2017, when we did the land swap. And, I mean, it's been sitting idle. I know the Boy Scout troops have done some work, and we've had a lot of engagement this past month on the issues. I just don't want the expectations to be that we're trying to do something with money that we don't have. I mean, this can get quite expensive. As we saw that we had a lot of neighborhood involvement for and against, but that hadn't changed since when we had neighborhood input back in 2018. We had a lot of people come out. We did have town halls. We did visit with neighbors. And honestly, we had the same opposition back then. It just became paramount because we were talking about $1 million now. And we don't have anywhere near. This past year for our budget was hard. We had to do a lot of cutbacks, and I just don't see where, I don't want to overburden planning and zoning on something that's not going to happen or come to fruition, because they're going to expend a lot of human capital and hours on trying to come up with a plan that, one, we can't afford, and two, I don't think it's feasible. So I do have my reservations on that.
Okay, thank you, buddy. We're going to come back. I think we're going to have more discussion on that. We're going to come back to you. Conrad?
Maybe to clarify, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I'll start. This is going to be about if there should be an entry down there, and then it's going to be if it's so. And my understanding is there are quite a few people that are for improving that area. So the assumption would be that then we're going to end up in a design mode through P&Z. So talking about cost and design, then I come back to Pete, and what you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is expenditures on what possible design could come from that, and not the actual construction
Yeah,
of
that-
the
That's
ramp
correct.
and-
This is to set direction forward. So this is to come forward with recommendations on how we move forward on this issue.
So, Bill, would this be similar to what we have done on the different beautification committee proposals that we've asked for different cost or different cost parameters that they're proposing? There's a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. You can have a Taj Mahal, or you can have a functional plan, or you could have a Boy Scout, let's make it work this weekend type of plan. Is that what we would be looking at? And that was directed to Bill first. Yes.
That's what I envision. Or it could come back to saying we don't do anything at all here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're correct. The one thing I would point out that we haven't done, and you're asking people to be for or against something. We haven't asked them to be, but they've taken a side for or against it. But we don't even know where the trail should be planned and what is feasible. So that's in the discussions that we've had. We've been preparing the Planning and Zoning Commissioner, the chairman and the vice chair, to kind of think through how they might approach this. The first meeting is going to be just, let's review what happened, and then they'll move forward slowly as we talked about. But what we haven't ever done is we haven't actually had the engineers go out and survey and actually propose, here's where the route would be, and here's what you're really talking about, your options. And there needs to be some a small amount of investment in there to be able to have something a little bit more finite that we can actually compare the advantages and disadvantages. Right now, we have a concept. And so, again, when we went out for the grant, even when we were doing the town halls before, there's never really a solid route with the implications to, you know, do you have to have switchbacks? What's the slope of the trail? And that's going to drive the options that someone's going to actually develop in a little more detail that we can actually consider.
Okay, Buddy, I want to come back to you in light of everybody else's comments. Is that something that sounds right to you? You know, I guess what Bill is saying and what I'm hearing is, in principle, we've said, yes, this makes a lot of sense, but it's like we're the blind men that have all gone on and we found a different part of the elephant. And we think we all know what the elephant looks like, but we don't know what the elephant is until we actually have planning and zoning or somebody come back and say, this is what an elephant really looks like.
But we know what the elephant smells like.
We know what, we know what elephants smell like, exactly, exactly.
So, no, I'm good with this. I just want to make sure that we all understand that, you know, there has to be some controls and it has to be limited.
Okay. Do you have a recommendation as far as an engineering cost that you would be willing to expend, not to exceed?
I would limit it to $10,000.
Okay. Are you proposing that as an amendment to Pete's?
No, because I'm not a qualified engineer, and I don't even know if 10,000 is enough. I mean,
Engineer here.
What is that finger for?
So the first thing we would have to do is survey it. It is very rough terrain with a lot of trees. I'm not sure that we could survey it for $10,000.
Yeah.
so Bill, what can we afford? I mean, at this point.
Well, again, we have a community engagement and an enhancement fund, and we expect to receive quite a bit of revenues this year from that, and we have not allocated the expenses. This could, if this is a decision from City Council, we could easily fund it from there, this amount.
I know we can easily fund it, but is it something we can live with, and we're not diverting earmarked funds that we were hoping to use it for?
Council can decide that, but you created a fund that's specifically targeted community engagement and enhancement, and this seems like it's a perfect fit. A trail connection.
So what's feasible as far as, what are we talking about, $25,000?
I would say $25,000. That's actually the number I had in my head to do survey and preliminary engineering. You know, we've done some initial work out here, but it's all been based on LiDAR data and aerial images. And so the survey is going to be the critical piece to figure out what the actual solution is going to look like.
Will that 25,000 give us a solution that we can memorialize and keep it just in case we decide to table it for a couple of years?
Yeah, for 25,000 will give you a very solid concept and opinion probable cost, construction cost. It won't give you full construction documents that can be built, but it call it 20-30% design.
Okay. Is that good?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Yeah, Lee.
Not to be throwing wrenches again, but I'm smelling mission creep on this. This is, one of my constituents has reminded me, this sounds a lot like the thing with the Marvel downtown with San Antonio. We all know that no matter how the vote goes, 10,000 to 1, they're going to proceed. This is a foregone conclusion. And we got some citizens out here that believe that no matter what we do or say up here, there's going to be a trailhead put in, and then there's going to be a pathway, and then there's going to be something else. I personally don't believe that. I personally believe that we can maintain control. It'll be like riding a bucking horse, but we can if we put our will to it. But the term was mission creep, and I can understand the verbiage. I want to make sure that anything that we do say or publish includes the fact that we can take an off-ramp anytime we want to. And I'd like to see some fiscal, not only fiscal restraint like we're talking about now with the 25K, but I think this body, whether we meet or not, should get emails to us on every expenditure, especially anything that exceeds some ledger mark, whether it's 25K or whatever, because we have citizens out here that are very, very smart, and they know what it costs to do A and B, and we'll start catching it. And I want to have answers for them. I prefer them not to have the question. So I can see that we can go forward with this, but I darn sure want some controls on it, because it adds up to money, and it's a project that a lot of people that live in that area simply do not want.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Bill, in the fourth quarter of the calendar year, about what do we expect to receive into the beautification fund?
$150,000.
150,000. Buddy, do you want to earmark these as being non-tax dollars and to come exclusively from the beautification fund, so that we're not just throwing our ad valorem sales tax and franchise taxes after this?
Oh, absolutely, because I think those over the next 12 months, that we're going to, have to tighten our budget to make things work out.
Okay.
And I would like to see that happen.
Okay. Pete, I would at this time, I'd turn to you for a friendly amendment. They suggested it. You can amend your own ordinance, subject, or your motion, subject to Conrad's continued second. Is that your request?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Conrad, are you fine with that? Okay, so we have the motion as it appears on our screens, as modified to provide for a $25,000 budget to be used on the engineering costs for development, with the cost of those engineering fees to come out of our city beautification funds. There being no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0 as modified. Item number 8.2, discussion review of possible Turkey Creek Drainage Improvement Project and initial draft presentation for future City Hall meeting. Curtis, you want to come
No,
forward?
this is me.
Oh, this one's you.
Next one's Curtis.
Next one's Curtis, okay.
Okay, Mayor, Council, in 2017, you directed that we do a drainage study across the entire city. And KFW engineers, now Collier engineers, led by Chris, provided that comprehensive document. And I think there were 14 to 17 areas of concern. Most of those have either been confirmed as not a significant issue, and/or we've whittled it down to 3 projects. And the 3 projects were Days of Allah, Elm Springs, and Turkey Creek Honey Bee as an abbreviation. Obviously, Days of Allah drainage project is being funded, is ongoing. That leaves us 2 drainage projects. In 2020, the engineers did a preliminary engineering report of those areas, and the cost for the 2 remaining projects was about $4.4 million in 2020. So that's probably $5 to $6 million now. In 2022, the city submitted via HAF Engineering both water projects to the Texas Water Development Board Regional Flood Plan. And the projects qualified for the flood mitigation evaluations. There's potential for grant money there. Fortunately and unfortunately, due to the city's high average median household income, it appears the city would only qualify for about 5% of the project cost. And so getting a significant grant is probably not likely from the Texas Water Board. In April of 2025, we staff presented an update on the engagement with the property owners directly impacted with a possible drainage project on Turkey Creek, Honeybee, Longbow, all the way out through Hunters Branch South. And the reason why we brought this to City Council in April was because that we know there's a possibility that we may go out for street improvements and a bond money in 2000. I think we could just turn the screen off somehow. It keeps flicking. Yeah. But in 2027, based upon the town plan that we had, would be a target time to consider street renovation improvements on the northwest quadrant of Chavano Park. So recalling that there in the town plan in long-term infrastructure, there was an initial plan to do the east side, which we did. We took a $10 million bond out. Then the second segment would be in the northwest quadrant. The third phase would be the estates. The fourth phase would be Chavano Creek. Each one of those is a pretty hefty price tag, which would likely include, probably, it will include debt requirements if the city chooses to do that. Because the target date was 2027, and that's, you're gonna tear up all the streets on the northwest quadrant. We talked about this before. If you're gonna do drainage projects, you would do it in conjunction with that street maintenance. So, in theory, you would go out for debt to pay for the street maintenance on that northwest side, and at the same time, you could consider a drainage project. So that's where that's the background, and we kind of left that in the town plan in 2023. But in order to actually consider something in 2027, we knew we needed to engage with the residents and develop some options associated with the drainage and start working that, because it's going to take 1.5 years to work that out. We considered further refining the engineering plans to a 40% solution so we could present that to the citizens, but 40% solution was a big cost that we would have to, eat ourselves. So what we did in April was we presented an alternative to allow the engineers to prepare 3D renderings and presentation materials so that we could meet with the residents, show them what is happening, and that we would get buy-in. And if we had buy-in with the residents that had direct impact, we would then do a town hall prior to the 2027 piece. So the specific issue is that in the areas that the drainage naturally flows now, there are no drainage easements at all. And so the only improvements that could be made without the citizens' buy-in is on the road and the right-of-way itself. So there are 3 critical low water crossings. One's that kind of at Honeybee. It's not as bad as the other ones. It gets worse as the further you go south. The second one's at Turkey Creek, and the third one's at Longbow. So, the basic option is just to raise the roads, put culverts underneath it as part of the drainage, as part of the road construction project. We know that in '98 and 2002, we had significant rains, and that there were flooding, and houses were flooded in those 2 rainstorm events. And the fire department, when I first got here 12 years ago, told me that those roads were cut off for a day or so, where you couldn't evacuate people, you couldn't get ambulances or police or fire vehicles there. There has been flood events where people have tried to drive their car through low crossings and been swept away. No fatalities to my knowledge, but there are some dangerous spots. And the most dangerous right now that exists is in Rimple Creek. We're dealing with that with the De Zavala project, and the next ones would be over here in the Honeybee, Turkey Creek, and Longbow. So I started out looking at 8 different property owners that you're probably, maybe 6, that you would have to go through their property. And then I walked each one of those properties. I knocked on the doors. I called them. I met with all 8, and then I started expanding that. And then I personally met with 20 property owners, and I got a right of entry for, looks like 17 of the 20. And the 2 I didn't really, 2 of them I didn't really need. I met with one, and he and I walked it. He's like, I'm not ready to sign for a right of entry. But we did all that preliminary. The bottom line on that is that we have a lot of support for this project from the residents that are directly affected. And so what they want is they want more information. So kind of like we were just talking about in the trail, it's hard to visualize and get their approval on something which they can't see exactly what it's gonna look like or where it's gonna go. And that's what we're trying to do today. So what we, again, that's all the background, but we tasked the engineers to provide 3D renderings and presentation materials. And then the idea is that we're gonna have a meeting, probably have 2 or 3 meetings at KFW Engineers where we'll invite the residents that the drainage has to go on their property. Once we get their okay, then we'll do a town hall to bring in the whole neighborhood to get their information on it. I've looked at these slides and we've done a couple iterations. What we're gonna show you is probably gonna be improved a little bit more as we move forward, all right? But I'll turn it over to Chris to give the one over the world, and then we'll go through these slides, and I don't know if you have an interactive program to where you can interact.
Yeah.
But these are just visualizations. And we also, I would just say, there's really, there's, just do this, the road improvements. There's you can dig out the channel and make it grass, so it's above ground channel. And you could also put a culvert in all the way and then fill it full of grass so you can't even see it in the future. And those are all different options that are considered. This is primarily focused on the above ground, creating the channel deeper, planting grass on it, and making it look natural. Chris?
I don't know there's a lot left for me to say, because he did a pretty job covering
Well,
that.
the presentation is what we tasked you to do.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, back in 2020, we did a PER on this, and when we did that, we looked at a underground storm drain system, a box culvert that went from Northwest Military to Honeybee, around Turkey Creek, and then down to Longboat. It was fully underground. It is the most expensive option, but it's also the least visible option. During construction, it's gonna be ugly, but once construction's complete, nobody even knows it's there. But again, it is the most expensive option. So in talking with Bill and the residents, we looked at a more natural option that would be less expensive to construct, but it is gonna be more impactful to the surface. And so because of that, Josh and Anyeza worked their magic on the computer, and they came up with these renderings showing what this might look like. I will say that we didn't do a lot of engineering on this. What we did was we took the underground analysis that we did. We had the flow rate. We came up with a typical cross-section for that peak discharge, and that's what we modeled in this 3D view. When we go into detailed design, we will do a lot more analysis, and we will fine-tune this, and we will be able to shrink this some as you get further north towards Northwest Military. So what you're seeing right now is a little bit exaggerated, especially on the north side. But Curtis, we keep losing video. All right, so with that, I'm gonna hand this over to Josh, because him and Anyeza are the ones that made this look good. I just do black and white drawings.
All right, I'll introduce myself. I'm Josh Berry. I'm a landscape architect with CED. And so Anyeza and I, we put together kind of a 3D model of the area. And we're gonna start off by showing kind of like a fly-through video. So if you want to head and go show it. So this is starting over at Military, going towards Honeybee, and kind of showing this would be the swale option going on the surface and what that would do and the impacts of that leading all the way up to Honeybee. And so kind of going through the trees. And then once we get to Honeybee, oops, that's when we would then propose to go under the road at this point. And we'd have a culvert to capture all the water that's coming from Military. This water then would go underneath the road and follow Honeybee here. And this might take a little bit, but I don't know if you want to skip it. So we're gonna, this will be going underneath the road. Until we get to, this is Turkey Creek Road. Correct, right, yeah. And then, once we get to Turkey Creek, we would then daylight the water.
Pause it.
Go ahead and
Can you
pause.
pause it? And I do want to point out, I said that we were. Pause it. This was the natural option, minimizing storm sewer, if you just saw a lot of storm sewer. As you go from Honeybee to Turkey Creek, there's not a lot of room between the homes, and so we can't snake an earthen channel through there. And so that's why we still have a large segment of box culvert.
And so, go ahead and continue. So then, this is leading from Turkey Creek going to Longbow, and then we're gonna continue just to be going on the surface the rest of the development. And then there would be a culvert going underneath Longbow here.
You know what size culvert that is?
Approximately 7 foot wide and 5 foot tall. They're intended to contain a 100-year event so that, during a severe flood, emergency vehicles can still get through. And all residents, for that matter.
Switch it to the JPEGs. And so then, we kind of put together some slides, kind of showing it more in detail. So this is kind of showing the overview where we'll be coming from Military onto the surface until we get to Honeybee. And then the red line, that shows where we'd be underneath the road itself. And then when we come back to blue, that would be when we return back to surface drainage. This is kind of showing the existing conditions right now of Military. And then this would be a representation of what that swale would look like, that drainage channel. This is looking from Military towards Honeybee, if it would stay connected.
Once we get from, before it's daylight, it has to go down through the pipe. Are we talking 7x5 pipe underneath the streets as well?
Yes.
And how, I've been watching I watched the big machine over here on Days of Vala and their problems with our Flint. How deep were you gonna have to go to put in something 5 feet and still have enough dirt to grow grass on top of it?
I don't recall offhand. We do have that in the preliminary engineering report that we have, so I can pull that when I get back to the office and send it to
Okay.
y'all.
And how big a machine are we gonna have to put down through here between people's houses to affect this? It's not gonna be him with a shovel, no.
No, it depends on the contractor that's doing it.
wow.
The contractor on Days of Vala chose to use a trencher that took 2 passes. There are other ways of doing it, but for visual purposes, I would imagine something like the trencher that y'all saw on Days of Vala.
Chris, do you have any kind of, just a wag as far as what that culvert is gonna cost?
I should have looked at that. It's in the PER that we prepared. I want to say it was $3 million.
Yes.
That was a culvert all the way from Northwest Military Highway all the way through, so we're cutting out most of all that.
Okay, so we're gonna wind up with about 25% of that. So $750,000?
No.
Okay,
I didn't say that.
so
If
$1
we go
million?
fully-
$1.5 million? How many
Well,
houses?
again, there's really no, it's interesting that we guess what the amount is gonna be. That's not really, the real thing is this is the most economic solution? Is this feasible to the residents that go through their yard? If it is, then, then we know it's feasible. Then it's like, how do you secure the funds? It may not happen for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but you've got a feasible solution. We don't even have a feasible solution at this point in time.
Mr. Mayor, I do have,
Buddy?
I have some questions on this. Bill, we're looking at this, so I know that we've done a lot of planning. We looked at a bond that we recently did. We had money left over. We were able to do Chavano Creek with the leftover funds, which is near $3 million. We've used the Days of Allah, the overflow from that money, to help put everything together. So we go to 2027, we're looking at debt retirement. But even with the debt retirement, I think in our numbers, if I remember the cash flow, we were setting aside enough for another $10 million bond. This looks like we're going to exceed that budget, and I think that's what the mayor's alluding to. If this is more than a $3 million project, and then we have to have upfront costs, I don't know if we're going to have the funds to do that upfront cost. If we're going to have to sustain 40% of it upfront.
In the town plan, there is a template that says every 5 years you go out for debt. And then you don't relieve that debt until the 20-year mark, okay? That's a decision the council's gonna have to make in 2027. The $10 million bond was for 6-something miles on the east side. It is not anticipated on the west side that you're gonna need to go out for a $10 million bond. But whatever you do, whether you go with just the streets, whether you do the streets or the drainage, my calculation is that will have to be paid for at a new debt that will have to be raised on the INS fund, okay, so the interest and sinking funds. And so just like I can tell you, City of Church went out for like a $15 million bond, and they raised their tax rate 6 cents.
Absolutely, and that's
And
what
so-
we're seeing in Hollywood Park and everywhere else
Exactly.
around us, is an increase in taxation, which, sure, if it needs to get done, so be it. I'm just looking at what we've planned on and what our expenditure is gonna be in today's dollars on whether or not we're gonna have the funds to fund the initial concepts.
Well, we've already funded this part.
True,
So
true,
no, out of the money from the $10 million bond, no.
okay.
You're gonna have to, again, 2027, we'll say, here's your street assessment. We need to do the streets on the west side. You can defer it a year, but then you're also deferring the estates in Chavano Creek. You know, pipers come, the streets have to be, you have to have a plan, because if you keep deferring it, it's gonna get worse, and now they're all gonna happen at the same time, and you won't be able to afford it.
Well,
So-
I'm not suggesting deferment. I'm just suggesting that that make sure that we keep to our plan. And some of these things may not happen, like some of the drainage projects, because the streets
Yeah.
are a project that need to get done. And we've planned on that.
Right, so, again, as we talked about, if you do the streets in the northwest side and you don't do the drainage, you won't do the drainage for another 20, 30 years, because you'll tear up all the streets that you just built. So if you're gonna tear up the streets, to put drainage in, you wanna do it at the same time you're gonna put a 50-year, a 40-year street in. And that's the whole reason why we're prompting this, because
We'll come back.
you have an opportunity to do the drainage at the same time you do the streets. And what happened in 2027, the council will say, well, we don't want to raise the taxes to do the drainage project, we're only going to do the streets, and then the residents over there, we're just going to have to live with the flood risk. And that'll have to be, that'll have to be balanced. It'll have to be a very deliberate decision.
Pete?
What we're talking about here is just preliminary engineering. I mean, we're talking about just doing the first steps to scope what this is that correct? So we can at least engage the residents to find out exactly how we would execute this project, whether we'd be completely buried, whether it'd be trench type. Is that not what we're
You've already
talking about?
approved the engineering, they've done it, and this is what the outcome is. There might be a tweak or two. The objective is to
engage the
there
residents.
are 6 residents that maybe there's 8 that it's going to go on their property.
Right.
It has to go on their property. We're going to brief them individually and show them this and answer their questions, get their concerns. Then we'll do a town hall all before 2027. And then that's city council at 2027 is going to say, yeah, the citizens support it. We have right of entry for the maintenance of this. They bought off onto the program. And then it's a decision, well, are we going to afford it now, or are we going to do it later? So this is not a done deal. This is, But if you wait to 2027 to try to answer these questions, you'll be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll
So,
be like what we did on the trail, the trail. We went for the grant without doing some of the stuff, thinking we have 3 years, but we didn't have 3 years.
and there's also different levels of engagement is one of the things I've seen. And the more engaged you can get people, the more committed they are. I've seen the likely likelihood of change management issues don't pop up down the road. Would you say that's fair in these engineering
I do.
projects?
Yes. And with this, I mean, we have to go through people's property. There's no way around it. And so we've identified 2 alternatives right now. And so the next step would be to meet with those residents, say, here's A, here's B. I think the right answer is somewhere in the middle. But if we can get their buy-off, because we're going to need easements from them, and if we can get them to buy off on it, we're going to be protecting their homes. If they'll give us the easements, then we can actually build a project. And I do want to mention the $3 million, that included the full reconstruction of Turkey Creek everywhere we were putting pipes. So there was quite a bit of road included in that.
Maggie, we'll come back to you.
My question is, what if they don't want to give us their easement? What's the plan? Or what are the alternatives? If, like, we have 5 people with that and 4 give yeah, let's do it, and number 5 says in the middle, no, I don't want to do it.
So this is a life safety issue. I forget the exact count, somewhere on upwards of 30 homes that get cut off during a flood. And so there is always the ID word that could be used.
Eminent domain.
Got it?
I didn't want to be the one to say it. It's not popular. I know nobody wants to do it. It is an option that is out there. If you have one property owner that says, no, I don't want this, and everybody else wants it, it's an option.
But there are segments here. So from Northwest Military Highway to Honeybee, the water already goes through there. If we want to channel it, make it better, and protect their homes more, we can do that fairly easy. Actually, that's the easiest spot. And then even if one of those persons said, not on my property, you could leave it like it is and then just build the culvert in the channel down Honeybee to Turkey Creek, do the culvert there, all in the right-of-way, and then you go to the next phase. And if there's an obstacle there, I don't anticipate, those guys are they're pretty excited about this. They keep asking me about, when is the city going to do this? Especially after a heavy rain.
Yeah. Lee?
Bill, I know you've been out talking to these people because I've gotten calls from, hey, Bill was here. Two of the ugliest words in human language are triage and eminent domain. I would not like to subject any of our citizens to this, so I know you've got the gift and you know which particular house I'm talking about that won't go for this. Keep talking to them because we've got to do the drainage. Every one of those floods that you mentioned, I was here. 2 of them, I was a volunteer fireman. So it's got to be done, regardless of how many hoops you have to jump through. So I commend you for doing what you're doing. Just keep doing it. Thanks.
Well, Bill and I have both already engaged in alternative funding sources. Don't know how that's going to work out, but we have to have the rest of the we have to have the rest of the street plan in place to be able to put them together. And then as far as spending the money out of the bond, I believe that we were told the last time that we did the bond, that the funds have to be expended in a 36-month period of time. Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong.
Extendable to 5 years, which we're going to do. for this one.
Extendable to 5 years.
Yes.
Which would mean that you look at the Days of Allah project, the Days of Allah project funding took more time than you might have expected after the approval process came through, the thumbs up. All of this could be stuff that's actually happening in 2029 out of a bond funding in 2027.
Yeah, so what we did, what the mayor's talking about here is when we basically bundled the $10 million bond that we submitted with a $5 million grant, federal grant request. And so that we asked for $5 million out of a $15 million. They gave us the $4 million federal funds, and that's why we're doing the Days of Allah. So, ideally, we'll figure out what the cost to do the northwest quadrant is. We'll figure out the cost of this drainage project. We'll go out for a federal grant again, and then they won't fund the whole thing. They'll fund probably the drainage portion of it. Ideally, this is an ideal world, not saying it's going to happen. And then the bond that we take out is primarily for the streets. And then we're using the federal funds for the drainage here. That's what the goal is on this.
Okay, coming back to Buddy. Okay, Conrad?
I don't have anything. I was going to point to Pete and let him finish. Okay.
Okay. Chris, thank you very much for your stuff. We appreciate it, and we will all have an opportunity to talk to Bill on a one-on-one basis to get a little bit more clarification after we've thought about all of this. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8.3, discussion action, Pape Dawson Engineering Construction Inspection Services Contract Amendment for Days of Allah Project. Curtis?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In 2023, the City Council approved a $209,466 contract with Pape Dawson Engineering for construction inspection services and material QA and QC testing. For the Phase 1A project, we had the D&D contractors, so everything that was done on the east side North Military. The contract was billed on an hourly basis, so at each month, hourly timesheets were submitted, and then we expended out of it. The long and the short of it is that by the end of the D&D contract in Phase 1A, we still had a lot of money underneath that contract. So we've had Leonard Adame, primarily with Pape Dawson. He's been out on the site, and he's been invoicing under that existing contract since July 14th when we started the construction. So far, we expended $32,000 of that previous contract for the Days of Allah project. But we are nearing the end of what we had previously authorized for Pape Dawson for these services under that. So proposal here tonight is to approve an additional $196,881. You can see their proposal with how many hours they'll be spending on the project and everything, which will take us through the rest of the Phase 1A and Phase 1B, continuing to use primarily Leonard Adame with Pape Dawson. He has been fantastic to work with the last several years. We definitely recommend that we continue with this relationship with Pape Dawson. And this would be taken out of bond funding that we're requesting here tonight. And they would continue with the exact same what they've been doing, which again is they're managing QA and QEC testing when they need to call in Terracon, making sure that, which are geotechnical, making sure that Arios, that's geotechnical for the contractor, that their tests are coming in good for the compaction, for the concrete densities. We get all those reports. It's very thorough, the work they're doing. And also, I just wanted to review, this is a good opportunity, where are we at on spending for all these projects? Since this is spending by the different projects, Phase 1A, B, C that we talked about, Phase 1A, again, East Side North Military, that's D&D, that is 100% done. All the spending under that contract is complete. They are on the warranty bond for the streets. If roads crack, it's their job to repair it under their cost. But that was $8.5 million that total came out to between engineering, construction, and administration, miscellaneous costs, which if you remember, we embarked originally with a $10 million idea that we were gonna do those streets. Total it came to is $8.5 million. I thought it'd be interesting, the D&D contract, the original contract was $6.8 million. We had 539 in change orders, so the final cost of their contract was $7.397 million. So our change order percentage on that was a 7.9, which is pretty good from what I understand with projects. Anything over 10 or 15% is considered much more problematic. So overall, we came in good on that. And you can see, of course, we're almost about 30% through Days of Allah. We've expended in total on the project 1.1 million thus far, and the federal funding is 744,000 that we've gotten back. So in total, on all these streets and that, everything we've been talking about over the last several years, council, it's 9.6 million we've expended so far. So here is these much more tables that you've seen for the last several years of we're under the bond and the federal and the pools of money. Green is the federal bond in 2020, or the city bond in 2022. Blue is the federal we got from the Congress. And you can see that 196,881 I just mentioned being dropped into there as a new authorized expense under the bond tracker. And you can see that in total, we've earned interest income of $903,000 on this $10 million bond. We're now, you've authorized above the 10 million, but now we're eating into all the interest income. And so with that number, 196 popped in there. If you approved it, what you're looking at is 1.4 million in authorized project monies under the bond are still have not been expended. They haven't left the bank account. An additional 764,000 has not even been committed to anything. Still sitting in bond money. So.
And then that's what we were targeting the Chavano Creek piece. Because we know that if Chavano Creek is phase 4, we need to do some maintenance of those streets so that they can make it through the next iterations.
Okay.
That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. If you hold on. This is a discussion item. I'm going to move it without any action to Conrad. Conrad, do you?
I think it is an action, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, there is an action. We have a motion to approve the Pape Dawson Engineering Construction Inspection Services Contract Amendment for Days of Auto Project and authorize up to $196,881 as possible spending. We have a motion
Second.
from Lee. We have a second from Pete. We're now open for discussion. Conrad.
Just a quick question, the change order, is that part of the spreadsheet error? Or is that?
So you are, good eye, you are correct. So there was $575,000, which were 10 missing pages from Cliffside that were not put into the overall quantities that were bidded on the contract. I didn't think it was fair when we were looking at for change orders for either decisions we made as a city that we want to extend this extra area, we want to construct the streets, or we had a cost overrun, a true cost overrun of materials in the calculation of change order percentage. So yes, if you look at the actual contract is not 6.8, it'd be 6.1, and the change orders is actually over $1 million with that 539, which is additional 575. But the total 7.4 is the actual cost, just the numbers would be slightly different.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pete.
Just a comment. Inspections, funds for inspection services is always a well-spent money in my book. And especially when you're doing a federal project, that's even more important to make sure that we get things right and that we have the documentation that shows things are right.
This particular project with the 9-foot, actually 10-foot trench going down 23 feet, and you got a 54-inch culvert, and you got gravel on top of it, you got to compact it. Our inspector is out there every day just with his finger on the pulse, and much more difficult than the other project over on the west side, the east side. So this is critical because he's holding them accountable. And what we're trying to do is make sure that once it's completely constructed, that the compaction is done to standard so that it doesn't sink. And so, where that big trench was.
Do you have anything that you'd like to tell us about the Pape Dawson process? Oh, I thought that he was with the engineering department.
He left.
Oh, he did already, okay.
No,
Okay.
we have, they're every day, and we meet him on site. He gives us updates, he gives
Okay.
us photos. He is calling on our engineer firm to come, Geotech, to confirm when it's appropriate to do double checks. He's part of the meetings we have on a biweekly piece. He's got an engineer supervisor that he reports to, and he is the actual representative on the ground from Chavano Park on a day-to-day basis, monitoring everything.
Okay,
I have a question.
Maggie.
Okay, if I recall correctly, when we were working on the east side, after it was all done, we had to go, something was discovered that we didn't know about previously, or it wasn't, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but we had to go back and redo it. You know, even with, did we have the same type of review on the work that was being done? Are we gonna have the same time? And I think, Pete, you can help me fill in.
Well, she's talking about the clay.
The clay, yes.
Yeah, so there were a couple of issues where, when they were putting the base material in and then lay overlay, we had some cracks that formed. And I don't remember the final outcome of that, but one of the things that's, when you have a third party that's always inspecting, it's always good to have somebody else that has a non-biased opinion that can come in and help. And I think they actually helped solve the issue, didn't they, if I remember right?
Yeah, it was primarily on the entrance of Windmill, you had cracking there. And so they came up with 3 solutions. We went with the cheaper solution to keep monitoring crack sealing. And then there's still some work that has to be done to crack seal, but, you know, we're tracking that. So yes, the same inspector. We think what happened is that clay material combined with the mesquite trees nearby and the fact that when they were doing that section, it rained and rained and rained and rained. It was a mud field, and that, you know, all that moisture under the road then later got pulled out of it, and then that caused some of the cracks. That's the primary area of concern. It's not that large of an area.
Okay,
Okay.
just keep that in mind.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve the Pape Dawson Engineering Construction Inspection Service Contract Amendment for the De Zavala project to authorize up to $196,181 in possible spending. And I'm assuming, Bill, this would be a part of the project budget as opposed to city funds.
Yes.
Okay. There being no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item 8.4, discussion action authorization for the city manager to approve a proposal to reestablish irrigation within the Saddle Tree Triangle to support future plans being proposed by the Citizens Tree and Beautification Committee. Maggie?
Okay, thank you. One of the things we're doing, along with all the changes on Northwest Military, is the beauty and the trees, the landscaping that we have in Chavano Park is something that we must keep up with. Keep it as beautiful, and we have our flags. We're known for its Tree City USA. We've got to keep these things going. One of the things that we're looking at with the committee, we've combined the tree committee with the beautification committee, and one of the things we're looking at is the triangle directly across the street, which is next door, bordered by the fire station, and then an empty lot on the south. One of the things is planting, and we've got some grants coming in for wildflowers, et cetera, coming together nicely. The irrigation in that area, we used to have it, and I don't think it's no longer working, as I understand it. And I think that first of all, we've got to have water to keep our plantings. We've got a plan by an engineer or a landscape designer that's looking pretty good, but we can't do anything unless we have water. So I'm just asking you all to take a look at it, to go ahead and redo. And Bill, also on the other side of that, on the south side of the fire department, where we keep the trucks and equipment and all, there's something that the Women's Club, several years ago, we perked it up, we weeded, we did a lot of work on it, and I don't remember there being irrigation there. And that's another thing that we have to look at, because that's a large part of the thoroughfare on Northwest Military. And take a look at the irrigation. I don't recall that there is any, but maybe that's something we could include it for much less, for not a lot of dollars.
Okay, so Maggie, do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the city replats that, refurbishes and makes the, since we have the plan, make the irrigation review, make it necessary.
Okay, so you have a motion to authorize the city manager to approve funding up to, what amount?
Yes,
$11,000, is that what you're proposing?
yes.
$11,000 to reestablish irrigation within the Saddle Tree Triangle. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Pete. We're now open for discussion. Lee?
Maggie, as I recall, the firehouse, the work you did plan, I remember it was Xeriscape, that it isn't going to need any water, that's the program that was approved, a program that you yourself worked on. It was
Yes,
some kind of plant doesn't need water. What is that, a cactus? I mean.
but we've got some of that in there.
Okay, and my second question is, it says in this motion, reestablish. Is there still piping under a road to a water supply, or we're gonna have to tear up the road?
It's my understanding there is some.
I can answer that.
But he can, Bill has,
Yeah, apparently when they built City Hall, or maybe before that triangle, there was at one point in time established irrigation. We had an irrigation qualified firm come out and look at it. It's not serviceable now, and so the plan is to establish 7 zones. 3 of them would be 2 in the existing flower beds that you have now, and then there's a proposal to be determined from the Northwest Military Highway Subcommittee on the Beautification Committee to put a pollinator garden in the middle of that. This would only do the preliminary irrigation so that subsequently, if you did it, you would have it available. Okay. And there'd be 4 zones that would take care of the grass in there and keep those trees healthy in there. It would really, in times of stress and drought, make it, probably transform that triangle. It'd be a really a fantastic.
Okay, well, anybody's got a irrigation system on their house, I'm sure we all do, know that placement of electricity and water is your bugaboo, and getting underneath a sidewalk or a public street. Is there any intention in the future in that triangle to put in some lighting?
Again, there was lighting in there. There's an old light pole there. The irrigation system was completely run by electricity. In this case, we've got Bill Rhodes, our electrician, looking at that, but I'm not asking for that here. We're looking at doing battery-powered stations because they last about 2 hours. It's a lot cheaper, and we
Or
can
2 years? 2 years,
2 years.
not 2 hours.
I meant to say 2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
My brain was saying 2 years,
Okay, okay,
and my
Good.
mumbling came out as 2 days.
okay.
But yes,
Okay. Question, Bill. On the $11,000, is this an allocation of already budgeted funds, or are we trying to do a budget amendment for the
this will be a
authorization?
budget amendment. You're not amending the budget with this. It'll be a subsequent budget. And so we talked about, we have 2 sources of funds we can do this from. We have $25,000 that are currently sitting in the Northwest Military Highway capital replacement. Capital replacement is typically for infrastructure. This would fall into that category. You could take it out of that, or you could take it out of the tree and beautification fund, which we have $120,000 in.
Okay.
So, it's not general fund tax revenues. These are
Yeah.
specified funds that are already in existence, and we haven't spent the money because you have to spend the money on the purpose that you
Yeah.
generated.
Okay, Conrad?
Just to be clear, it sounds like we're repairing what was there at some point. We hadn't touched it in years.
Yes, and this repair, it's really reestablishing it. We're not going to try to attempt to hook the lines into 20, 30-year-old PVC pipes here. It's got to be redone.
Run a new pipe.
Yes.
So we're abandoning in place?
Yes.
Okay,
Got it. Okay.
that's,
Okay. On y'all's motion, Maggie, Pete, do you have a preferred source of funds that you want this to come out of?
do we have, I'm sorry.
A preferred source. Bill said he has 2 sources. We have beautification funds to the tune of $100 and something thousand. and we have $25,000 in Northwest Military Capital Improvement Funds.
And we're getting some grant money from various organizations, like, well, for the pollinator,
Yeah.
so on.
My
We're still
recommendation would
after.
be from the capital replacement fund.
Okay, are y'all going to make your motion to be from the Capital Replacement Fund? Okay, Maggie, it's your motion. Pete's asked that it be from the Capital Replacement Fund. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I
change?
do.
Okay, and y'all are the motion, so the motion is modified to include at the end of the motion that the funds would come from the Capital Replacement Fund. If there's no other discussion, I will take the vote, the yeas and nays. A motion to authorize the city manager to approve funding up to $11,000 from the Capital Replacement Fund to reestablish irrigation within the the Saddle Tree Triangle. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Brings us to item number 8.5, discussion action, consideration for amending Chapter 14, Article 10, outdoor lighting affecting Camp Bullis. Curtis.
Thank you again, Mayor. So this is our dark sky ordinance, this proposal here in front of you, and this is our very first stab at it. It's very preliminary, everything I'm going to cover. Mainly going to focus to try to get you up to speed. I had to get up to speed when I started reviewing this on what all these terms in lighting and our regulations and what the impact of some of these statements in the ordinance and what they're saying. So where is this coming from? This is coming from the 23 Town Plan. We had a action step to establish periodic ordinance review program. And in 2024, after working to ask our police, what are difficult ordinances to enforce, to understand? Residents have a hard time understanding, how do I even come into compliance with this? And we've done two, we had this list that was put in front of City Council. We've done two of them so far, with the all-weather surface, defining that, and the parking regulations in the residential areas, and then the noise ordinance, which we just did. And so this is now the third one in this, third pass, and it's for the lighting ordinance. And so the history behind this is in 2009, the city adopted a dark sky ordinance in cooperation with Joint Base San Antonio to reduce light pollution near Camp Bullis. The Fair Oaks Ranch has this, Bernie has this, City of San Antonio has this. Every city that has jurisdiction within 5 miles of a military base, my understanding here in Bexar County, has this dark sky ordinance or something similar to this. Dark sky ordinances set requirements for outdoor light fixtures in residential and commercial areas. Generally, they require a full cutoff fixture, which I'll explain what a full cutoff fixture is. That picture with all these different light fixtures, this is what is our ordinance today. All these examples of different light fixtures really help both the police and also residents say, okay, I want to install this outdoor light, what is compliant with the dark sky ordinance? And this ordinance puts limits on, in addition to all this other stuff, they put limits on the amount of trespass lighting, which is lighting that goes beyond your property line onto other nearby properties. This is both the commercial and residential areas. And it puts limits on how much light is passing beyond your property line. So this terminology, full cutoff, the first one we'll go through. So what they mean is that they keep all light that's being generated at 90 degrees or lower. So you can see non-cutoff, there's no shield around the light, it's just a bulb, light goes everywhere. Semi-cutoff, there's somewhat of a shield, full cutoff, cutoff, and then full cutoff. So our ordinance generally says that all those light fixtures have to be full cutoff, and they have lots of examples of what full cutoff shielding is, and that you can actually find that are manufactured. Another key terminology figure is foot candles. So foot candles are the intensity of light when they allow to traverse property lines. You'll see in the ordinances today, it allows 1.5 foot candles to cross. It's not, to me, when I first read that, it's not an intuitive what exactly that is. But a 1 foot candle is a candle 1 foot away, 1 foot square area, how much light is produced. A standard candle produces 1 foot candle. So you can think of it as a light spreading across the area. Our ordinance today says 1.5 candles worth of light could be generated onto beyond the property line. That's what in the ordinance is today. But that's where that is the industry common measurement for light intensity. Another key term that I want to talk about here in a little bit is with light temperature, or Kelvin. So light temperature describes the color appearance of light emitted by a bulb measured in Kelvin. The lower the number, the warmer the oranger tone of the light. This is when you're at Home Depot and you see all the lights with a different warm daylight and all these brandings of these. As the number gets higher, the Kelvin measurement, it produces a cooler bluish light, similar to daylights. So in an office building here at City Hall, we're gonna have probably more of the 5, 6Ks because it's an office, people need to work. At your home, in your living room, you know, a nice 24/700K warm light is probably perfect for lighting. But that's what that term is coming from. Last term I want to cover is IESNA. It is referenced in our ordinance when I started reviewing this, and that what the IESNA stands for is Illuminating Engineering Society of North America. So the IESNA makes recommendations for outdoor lighting. They're not a regulatory authority. So when I started this review, I said, what is their current recommendations? And I got those and pulled those in and proposed a change in our ordinance based on their recommendations. So moving out of terminology, what are the challenges with our current ordinances? So the exhibits and visuals in the ordinance are poor quality. It makes it hard for the police to see it, put it on a mobile phone or something. They're trying to, you know, out in the field, trying to compare a light fixture to this. You can see there would be a lot of challenges with that. The 1.5 foot candle trespass light limit, in our experience, people have what seems to be a reasonable complaint of a light source that's, the light is crossing on their property line, and we go out and measure it, and it's well below the 1.5 foot candle. So is that really the right limit that we should be having on that? An ordinance says no exemption for popular Edison bulbs, or these string lights where you can see the actual filaments, which are very popular. The lighting is unshielded, so it could be interpreted as a violation. And so we get complaints sometimes that someone puts up Edison bulbs in their back porch and they say that's a violation, that's not dark sky compliant. So the amendments that I have proposed thus far, and this, again, this is just a draft, we're not approving an ordinance or anything tonight, but I updated all the exhibits throughout the ordinance, mainly pulling from the city of San Antonio. They updated their 2018, much better quality imagery and such, got those all updated in there. I propose that we reduce the residential trespass light limit from 1.5 foot candles to 1 foot candle, because in the IESNA, they say suburban parking area, we're gonna park cars in suburban area, they recommend a 1 foot candle. So to me, our current ordinance is saying you could light your neighbor's property more than a suburban parking space, according to IESNA. I added the color temperature definition because the city of Bernie, when I was looking at their ordinance, they have that where when you have put up a white light, their ordinance says it has to be 2,500K limit, basically a warmer tone of light if it's going to trespass into people's properties. So I added that 2,700K proposal there. I added 2 new exemptions to the requirements of the dark sky ordinance. We have a list of exemptions in the current ordinance. I proposed 2 new ones. These come from Bernie again. I thought these were both good. The ornamental lights that are string lighting, that would cover the Edison bulbs. There's already an exemption for Christmas lighting, but only certain times of the year. But what if someone wants to put up lights for Halloween? Under the current ordinance, it wouldn't fall within the timeline, but that would just take care of all those issues. And that lighting elements with perforated patterns and opaque diffusers, as long as the light fixture don't violate the trespass light limit. So when I Google those are like, we have a light and maybe it's a metal screen with shapes in it and small amounts of light for decoration. That was in a Bernie's, and I thought that was a good ad as well.
Okay, a question, Curtis. As far as our dark skies, I thought that we regulated lighting beyond certain hours, that until you reached 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, that we were not regulating lights. And then at certain hours, we were turning those lights off, which would have taken care of the Edison bulbs because most of the people aren't running their outdoor barbecue pit lights in the middle of the night. Do we have a time limitation on when our lights are going off?
So I don't remember in the ordinances as being a specific time, but it is near impossible to measure the light being given by a source when you have the power of the sun, which drowns out all other light sources. Your meter would be picking up so much of the sun's light that you wouldn't be able to get an accurate measurement at all.
Well, I thought that we didn't require that you didn't have to go to dark skies until 10 o'clock at night or something like that. But that would be a consideration.
Yeah, certainly could add that, Mayor.
Okay. Okay,
Again, from Camp Bullis in the Joy Base, you know, they want us to adopt the dark skies from daylight because of the training mission associated with it. I don't know that it has a big impact. We're just proposing some basic amendments now. We can take a look at that and look at the implications to that and see if there's any advantages or disadvantages and report back to you.
okay. Have we talked to anybody at the Joint Base to see if these are changes that they would like for us to include?
Mayor, we're just bringing it to you to let you know we're considering changing our ordinances. And then this is a 2, 3, 4 month process. You're just getting the, we talked about this, and here's some initial things we're going to do. I think Curtis is going to talk about, do we send this to planning and zoning, or do we do it from city council only, et cetera?
Well, do you think that it should go to planning and zoning first? Do you think that
Well,
staff can have one more
Yeah,
bite at
is
it?
that part of your presentation?
Yeah.
Well, I'll let
Yes.
Curtis go through that.
Okay,
And finally, increasing minimum fines for repeat offenders. We did that in the noise ordinance and proposed adding that to our lighting ordinance. So if someone is violating the ordinance multiple times, there would be the minimum fee would be increasing. So the color temperatures, I just thought this would be a good example that I found on the darksky.org website. It's just a hotel. This is with white lights, then you put it with warm lights. Just that alone, white bulbs, same intensity lumens, how much of a difference that can make. And again, this proposal came from Bernie, Texas. This is in their ordinance. And then I thought I would run through, okay, so we had a new exhibit. That sounds great, but the exhibits are slightly different. And just to be fully transparent, yes, they're from San Antonio, so what are we changing? So, all right, so these are the unacceptable signs, the ones that a little grainier on the right is what's in the ordinance today. Over on the left is a light slightly clearer. And there's 2 new ones. There's additional unshielded bollard design, so I don't think that's I think it's more commercial areas for bollard. I don't think most residential properties have that. But there's a new louvered Larine style fixtures, and I didn't know what that was. So I Googled it, and these are a bunch of examples of louvered fixtures. It seems to be there's a light bulb with pagoda style, but that was if we just took San Antonio, which they worked with definitely JBSA when they updated their ordinance, that would be a new prohibited light fixture. Just full disclosure. All right, and then same thing, run down with the acceptable fixtures. The right little grainier is what is allowed today in our ordinance if you looked. Slightly clearer, here's from San Antonio, what are the changes? So we allowed newly fully shielded walkway bollard design signs. Again, I think this is probably more commercial rather than residential. And fully shielded decorative fixtures are allowed. So I didn't pull an image for that. That's pretty intuitive to me, of a decorative, old-style gas lamp kind of shape. So here's where I get to the crux where I'm asking for you for guidance, not to approve an ordinance or anything, but I also included in your packet a really good write-up from the Texas Attorney Association with the Borquez Law Firm that had a really good walkthrough of where cities get regulatory authority to regulate lighting, where we even get this authority. And so right now we're in an environment chapter and we don't really reference it as an ordinance. Is it a public nuisance? Is it a zoning regulation? Is it a building regulation? There's lots of options. I think that what makes the most sense to me intuitively is we either make it a zoning, which that's what San Antonio is, that's what Bernie is, or we make it a public nuisance, just like noise is a public nuisance. And Fair Oaks Ranch, the other ordinance I looked at, uses it as a building regulation. So that is another option. But of course, if we say we're going to move forward as a zoning regulation, it has to go to planning and zoning. And option 2, if we keep it as a public nuisance or building regulation, basically we can just keep it here with staff and city council level.
okay. Bill, do you have a recommendation on whether we make it a zoning ordinance or whether we put it into the building code?
Well, I think you have more meat and authority as a zoning ordinance to do that. Now, and the timing of this might be considered. I mean, we just gave Planning and Zoning Commission a fairly big task to work through this. So you know, what's likely to happen is they're likely to pick a subcommittee of the planning and zoning to focus in on the trail. Maybe they could pick a piece, or maybe they can delay this. It doesn't have to be a timeline for this. We just happened to tee this up, and we've been working on it a couple months, and it's collided with the cliffside thing. I don't think it's undoable to do both, because we work through this. The advantage of taking it to the planning and zoning is you have 9 folks that are gonna scrutinize this to the nth detail. You know, my experience with the military, I have a little bit of it, is they're a lot of times draconian, and they want to enforce more than they probably need to in some degrees. But we know we have a problem in Chavano Park. We have complaint after complaint after complaint. We go out there, and what would seem to be very unreasonable use of lights under our regulations is allowed, and it's really bothering a lot of the neighbors. And so this is not extreme proposal what we're doing. It's what most people would say is probably not even enough, but it's reasonable.
Yep. Without objection, I'm going to open up discussion before we consider a motion. I'm going to recognize Buddy first.
Yeah, I remember going over the dark sky ordinance and planning and zoning, and we spent a lot of time in it. We also incorporated the same verbiage into some of the electronic billboard signs, as I remembered, that we approved for the dentists and the daycare center, because we were concerned about that. But we also, I remember approaching Camp Bullis, since they're our neighbor, and we wanted to make sure that that we were in line with their regulations and everything, since there was discussion back then of them moving out because of the ambient light that was being out of the city of San Antonio, and us being good neighbors. I want to make sure that we adhere to, to their regulations. But I can see planning and zoning taking this up.
Lee?
Okay, going back on my history, I used to do the lighting inspections for 2 of the big banks here in Bexar County. ATM machines, especially the ones that were bolted against the wall on the outside, the convex mirrors, how many square inches it was, how it was aimed. Also going out twice a month, full of the moon, dark of the moon, reflected, had the whole situation, all that stuff. In your not allowed photograph, one of the things back there on the right, one more, I see a wall pack with Fresnel lens. You've got wall packed with Fresnel lens on every commercial vehicle building we've got out here. If you're only going to press this on citizens on a house, you're going to have some uproar, because I've got a wall pack with Fresnel lens because it's the most efficient way to aim and send light where you want it. But that doesn't, it's a splash pattern. If you don't make the people out there with the commercial buildings take down their wall packs with Fresnel lens and put up something different, you're going to have some unhappy people. And if you do make them, they're going to be unhappy at the top of a ladder taking down those. So I personally would really like to study this in depth, not being on planning and zoning, because I see some standards up here, some old friends of mine that we put in, and Fresnel lens could be changed. They're making new lights all the time, but a wall pack with a Fresnel lens has to work with an incandescent, as far as I know. You can't go LED. And then you got dimmable versus non-dimmable LEDs. There's a lot to go into this stuff. I heard the word draconian a few minutes ago. I think it's what we're looking to impress on people. So for my personal view, I would like to study this, not for a couple of days, but for a couple of weeks before we do anything, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Pete?
So one of the big ironies I see in this whole thing is you look between Chavano Park and Fort Bullis, there's a highway, 1604, that lights up at night where you can see it from space. And to me, that is just a huge ironic point of this whole thing. The other concern I've got is, after reading through this, I'm kind of where Lee is when I start thinking about the number of violations that we would have if we strictly enforce something like this, it would be thousands in Chavano Park. Do I have
No.
monsters under the bed?
No,
or
you
is
have
that-
monsters under the bed.
I've got monsters under
You're
the bed?
talking, there's a greenhouse in Huntington, and it glows, and I don't even know how the residents, I mean, it's terrible, but under our ordinance, it's legit. Because our standards are too high. We're not even adapting the standards that most cities do. So there's a couple houses, I'm not gonna call them out, and they got spotlights all over their house, and the neighbors can't even sleep at night. But we go measure it, and it's 1.2, it's less than the 1.5, and they're acceptable. So, what we're proposing isn't gonna be, I said Joint Base San Antonio is draconian, okay? I didn't say what we're proposing is. This is very reasonable. So I think some of San Antonio's examples, we should probably exclude, but we haven't done all that work yet. This is just, we're bringing to you an initial draft that says, we're considering this.
But when you showed the differences in the examples, right, of the different fixtures, and I look at those different fixtures and I look at what's installed throughout Chavano Park, I see a lot of the same concerns that Lee has about the type of fixtures that are installed in our community.
So typically, those are grandfathered or they're, right? Right, and it's new construction is where this stuff is done through here.
And as far as the new construction, what we have is we have citizens who've gone in, replaced fixtures, and they didn't use an electrician. They did self-help. They went to Home Depot and picked up something that was on the prohibited list already. So it's not as if, you know, most of these fixtures have probably become obsolete over the 12 years 17 years that we've had this ordinance. It's a long time ago,
Oh,
buddy.
it's been, yeah, it was in, I've been here 20 years, and it was in place.
So even string lights in your backyards right now technically are illegal, but everyone does it. We're proposing that we make them legal.
Yeah.
So we're trying to fix some of the reasonable stuff and then also make reasonable standards so that people can't flood out their neighbors' yards.
Okay, so I've heard two council members ask that we have a chance to think about this and probably interact with our city staff on this. Is that an acceptable solution to next month, that we send it back? We have a motion to direct staff to continue work on the amendments as a nuisance ordinance and to interact with city council for further consideration. Do I have a motion for that?
So move.
So, second.
Okay, we have a motion from Maggie and a second from Pete to direct staff to continue work on amendments as a nuisance ordinance and to interact with city council in that, and come back to us next
Or
month.
did your motion say as a nuisance ordinance?
That was what
Yeah,
I
that's-
read.
That's what he said.
Is that what you
No,
said?
well,
Pete?
that was the, you can look at it from whichever purpose you want. We can't, Bill, staff can't work on it as a zoning ordinance. We're
Well,
going to
we-
take it, we're going to make modifications, and
Okay.
then we'll make a decision on
Because I think
whether
there
it's
is a
zoning.
decision point still.
No, I think that, I agree with you 100%, but right now, we're talking about it as the nuisance ordinance that it is, to clean it up, and then we will make a decision as council. I'm assuming that council would do that, because we're not sending it to planning and zoning right now, it's at the staff level. Okay, any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Brings us to item number 9. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Pete has made a motion to adjourn. Conrad has seconded the motion. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.